Hey y'all, Father Jim Haney from St. Paul's in the Plains in Lubbock and Texas Tech Canterbury. I'm standing here outside of the American Wind Power Museum in Lubbock with all these windmills behind me. If you notice, there are lots of old antique windmills of various sizes and shapes. A few of them are moving, but most of them are stationary. They've been turned off so as not to spin because they're getting too old and rickety. But then there is one big giant windmill that just dominates the skyline there. In the midst of all these old antique windmills is a modern wind turbine chugging away. In fact, that's the smaller size of the wind turbine. Some of the ones in the big wind farms around here are much, much taller than that one. That's the mini version. And yet that large wind turbine is just so much bigger, so much more modern, so much more powerful than all these other small windmills around us. Now, these windmills were all important. They all served their function at various times in history, but they can't compete in power and size and scope and grandeur with a big white wind turbine. One of the things I love about being in West Texas is driving by big fields of those wind turbines. They're like big modern kinetic sculptures. I just love seeing those chugging away. Now, what does that have to do with Christmas? Well, Christmas is a week from today. And I think of all things, when I look at these windmills and that big wind turbine, I think of the first chapter of the Epistle to the Hebrews. The Epistle to the Hebrews says that, starts out in chapter 1, right at the beginning it says, long ago in various ways God spoke to our ancestors through the prophets, but now he has spoken to us through the Son. And these windmills and the wind turbine remind me of that. There's a huge difference. There's a huge degree of separation between these older windmills and that big, huge, modern wind turbine. And I think of these as an illustration. God spoke in many ways, as Hebrews says, in the past. Great prophets. We've got their writings collected in the Old Testament, and they point ahead towards Jesus. They have some of the same functions of Jesus. They are tapping the wind in the same way the big wind turbine does, but there's something special about the wind turbine. It stands head and shoulders apart. It stands head and shoulders above the rest. Hebrews goes on to say that if you want to know God, you look to the Son, because the Son is the exact image, the exact imprint of God. God spoke through the prophets. That's a wonderful thing in the past. But if you want the biggest, most complete, most modern, best picture of who God is, then the Epistle to Hebrews says you look towards the Son. He is the exact imprint, the exact icon, the exact image of the living God. And so soon we are going to be celebrating Christmas during the season of Advent. We've been hearing from various prophets, from Isaiah, from Malachi, from Micah, all getting ready, all pointing ahead to the coming of the Messiah. And they did tap into God's Spirit. God spoke through them. God got his message to his people through them. But the most complete revelation, the biggest and the best, is through Jesus Christ. And we celebrate his birth this coming week. And so I hope you have a wonderful last week of Advent, and I hope you have a very merry and joyous Christmas as we celebrate the coming of the most complete, wonderful picture we have of God in the person of Jesus Christ. God bless and have a wonderful day.